this is Summer Hartman, and we are with Summer Sleep Secrets. And today we have Laura visiting from, now tell us what your business is. What's your company name?
So Baby Newbie is my company name, and I am based in New Jersey, but currently in North Carolina with a family with twins.
Okay.
I do travel with families and do mostly 24-hour care. I'll also do overnights and new parent education.
Okay, great. So that's what we're doing. We're interviewing Laura today so that she can teach us, or at least share with us, what it's like to have a newborn care specialist. And the main questions that parents can really have, we're going to kind of go over those. And of course, later on, Laura might actually be teaching a class with us later. So this is exciting to start. So let's get started. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the questions. The first one is, as a newborn care specialist, what are some of the most common questions that new parents have when you actually meet them prior to the baby arriving? So when you're kind of on the interview, what do they have?
Right. Well, first of all, I think it's really important to always meet with the newborn care specialist and interview them, because this is somebody that is going to be living in your home for a part of the time. And so that would be one of the questions, is how am I going to feel comfortable, with somebody being in my house, taking care of my baby? How am I going to be able to rest? And so that's a dynamic that I think is really important that you figure out ahead of time and that you are very comfortable with, because not every personality is going to mesh. So it's important to meet with people and find the right person. And then the one of the most common questions is, when will my baby sleep through the night? And Summer, I'm sure you've heard this a million times. And so, I just explained to them that there's a protocol that is set into place from day one that is includes the swaddling and the white noise and the sucking and all the things that are going to make the baby feel really comfortable so that they will sleep. And then it's also a balance with the eating and making sure they're having the right amount of intake. And then just, keeping that going so that they're being really conditioned to sleep through the night. And we found that by 12 weeks, if all of that is done properly, and also that the baby doesn't have any other extenuating circumstances, that it is very natural for the baby to sleep through the night by 12 weeks.
Absolutely. I think that's the number one question on every interview, or even on the before an interview.
I don't think there's been one interview that I've gone on that has not asked that.
I know.
So, which is important, because, they are hiring us for that purpose as well, because they don't always have the experience and know what to do. So, it's a good question.
It is a great question. One we'll constantly always be answering.
Yes.
So the next one is, what is it that you do when the baby arrives and your job begins? Like, what is that fourth trimester? What would you do with that? How do you handle
it? So the fourth trimester, studies have shown that it is, really vital for the baby to have a transition that is really comfortable for them. And if they're thrown into a bright, loud room kind of experience that is so different than the womb, they are going to just be startled and irritable. And so that fourth trimester really includes all of the things that would be womb-like in this world. So that's why we do the white noise, why we do the swaddling, why we do the dark room for sleep. And, trying to keep it, as I call, like the nursery, like the womb room, keeping them in the womb room so that they have some time in there. It doesn't have to be all day long, but a lot of time in there in the first week so that they can smoothly transition and feel really comfortable being in that space.
Right. And a lot of times, we want babies to be warned and we want them on parents, but it can actually oversensitize them where their skin gets, I find that babies can be oversensitive, and so then they don't want to sleep, because that's why we swaddle.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's a balance, like to everything in life. I think that there has to be a balance. So of course we want them to have the kangaroo care. We want them to have that, closeness and skin to skin, but they also need to be put down, because if you only hold them, then they're not going to ever want to be put down. So, that's that balance, and finding that, that right amount, and knowing that the babies need to sleep. That's another question that I get a lot is, why is my baby sleeping so much? Is something wrong with them? And, developmentally, they grow while they sleep. So they need to have that sleep. It's just very, very important. And with the twins that I'm with now, they're almost 12 weeks, and I've been with them since the start. And I'm starting to see that, they're extending their time awake, and then they're sleeping longer naps. And it's all kind of just happening organically, because they've been just in the right groove all along.
That's great. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what a newborn care specialist does. I mean, people,
Right.
That's actually the funny thing, is that we get a lot of people who still say, I've never heard of a newborn care specialist. What do you do? And then you tell them, like, oh, I can do that. I get that a lot, where people are like, oh, I can hold a baby. And it's like, no, honey, it's not holding a baby.
Yeah.
It's literally
Right.
teaching, instructing, and setting the right tone. There's just
Right.
so much you can do.
There's so many little things that, because we've done it for so long and so intensely, that, we pick up on things that parents might not. So just for an example, this boy baby who was about 12 weeks old, the other day, it was about 6:15 at night, 6:20, and he was in his little seat and started making noises like, like a little moaning, kind of like, whatever. And I said to the dad who was sitting there, I said, that's his way of saying, if somebody doesn't put me in my sleep sack really soon and get me to bed, I'm going to start screaming. So he's like, oh, is that what that means? So I'm like, yep. And I, took him in, changed him, put him in his little swaddle sack, and got him to bed. And 5 minutes later, he was asleep. So it's just reading those signs too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other part of what our job is about, is to teach parents those signs. What to look for. All right.
Right.
What does it really make a difference if a baby is kept on a schedule when they are only a week old or weeks old?
Yeah. That baby would never have responded that way if he wasn't already been, if he hadn't already been, on that kind of a schedule of eating and sleeping and awake time, very regularly. If it was kind of all over the place, and I say to parents too, don't feel like you have to stay home every day, for this schedule. Go out to the park. A nap can be taking a walk and having the baby, sleep in the stroller. Or if you have to go pick up another child, the baby goes sleep in the car seat. It's not like it has to be in the nursery 24/7, but because that's not realistic. But it does definitely help to have them in that routine, being conditioned in that way for all the weeks to lead up to that.
No, I totally agree. And I get a lot of there's no scheduling a newborn. In reality, there is a routine. It doesn't have to be a strict schedule, but it's like feed every 3 hours or feed every 2.5 hours, whatever it is, but like be consistent.
Right. The consistency.
So it's really is teaching them consistency. And then also I find, I don't know if you do this too, but waking them up the same day at the same time every day makes a huge difference.
Yes.
We know what to expect as the hours go on every day. It's just clockwork.
Right. And that baby that I was just talking about, at 7:30 every morning, he is like an alarm clock. He will wake up, even though he goes to bed at 6:30. So he is just, it's his internal clock that's doing that. So it's kind of just, getting into that mode of seeing what they are looking for and what they need.
Yep, exactly. And teaching parents to not let them sleep too long. Like I have some parents that call us and they let the baby sleep, and whenever they wake up, they wake up.
Yeah.
Then their day starts at 9 or the day starts at 8, or it's just not consistent.
Right.
Those things off.
Yeah, I definitely find that.
So have you dealt with moms that have postpartum depression and anxiety?
I have. I've had quite a few with anxiety. I've had a few with postpartum. And I'm happy to see that it is being spoken about in the media more and more, because for so long it was such a, stigma that people wouldn't want to talk about it. And
Mhm.
the moms felt, ashamed, or, why is this happening to me? Or didn't really recognize the signs and didn't know how to deal with it. So
Mhm.
I think talking about it is going to help people to recognize those signs.
Yeah.
And anxiety, just comes along with being a new parent, I think. And it's just that some of us deal with things better than others in all kinds of circumstances.
Yeah.
So I have had a lot of moms with anxiety, and having a newborn care specialist definitely helps to relieve that. And that's one of our, the reasons that
Mm.
we are there, is to help promote a really smooth transition, a calm environment, and to relieve anxiety for parents.
Yeah. And actually I dealt with this over and over again over the last several years. And actually I had postpartum depression and didn't know it when my kids were little. And
Mm-hmm.
I actually wanted to commit suicide.
Yeah. Oh my
And
God.
so I ended up at the doctor's and I lay there in a ball crying, and she was like, "Oh, honey, you've gone on 15 months too long." And because I
Yeah.
told her it was 15 months at the time, and I was like, "I don't know what's wrong. My hormones were off." And she was like, "You have postpartum depression, and we can fix this." And
Right.
it wasn't talked about. This is 2002, and I'm like,
Yeah.
idea. So yeah, postpartum, once you've actually dealt with it like that, you can really sympathize with the mother because you see the signs instantly and you're like, oh,
Right.
I'm catching it way earlier than you than I was able to catch it myself. Um,
Right.
so I
And
really do think it's
there's help for it. It just, sometimes you just need to talk to somebody. Sometimes there's so many hormonal imbalances with pregnancy, chemical imbalances that can also occur. It might be some medication, but it might be some meditation or
yeah,
therapy,
yeah,
getting out of the house, taking a walk. I mean, there's so many different things, and ways to deal with it. So yeah, it's something that we really need to talk about more.
yeah. And it is getting talked about, which is really important. And then we'll have more discussions on it because it just is something that it's actually just therapeutic, I think.
Yes.
For me
Yeah.
to talk about it with my mom, sitting there with them while they cry and telling them my story, and it really
Mhm.
resonates with them that it's okay, you
Right.
know.
It's
And
okay.
I didn't
Absolutely.
take medication. I actually ran away. I went on vacation and left
That
my kids for
that's
two
a
weeks
kind of medication.
until I came home from the doctor, and I'm like, okay, I'm not taking this medicine. I know what I need. And I ran to a friend about 3,000 miles away, and I stayed with her.
Right.
So,
Right.
I knew what I needed, and that helped.
And
So
that's what is important. Yeah.
figuring out what works best for
Identifying it.
us.
Right. That's funny.
Entertainment. My husband was like, "What are you doing?" He had a 2-year-old he had a 3-year-old and a 15-month-old. I was like, "I don't know. I've been
Yeah.
doing this for 3 years. You figure it
Right.
out."
Right. I have them. Now you take them.
I know. I'm like, "You have to figure this out. I'm done." All right. So, have you dealt with babies that have reflux or any food allergies or tongue ties? Like, I know I have, so I imagine you probably have too. But how do you work with babies that have these issues or parents?
So I think that's one of the things that obviously we can never expect and prepare for. So
Mhm.
I have dealt with all of them, and it's I guess each one is going to bring its own unique situation. When it's a tongue tie and it can be fixed easily, then it's sometimes they're not latching properly, or drinking a bottle, or
Right.
taking what they need. For the food allergies, of course, it's more intricate and harder to figure out what it is. But
Hmm.
I've done a lot of research, and some babies are not as affected by certain foods that the moms are eating, and some babies are, and it's typically the ones that are that have the allergies, and that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But so eliminating certain things, doing an elimination diet for the mom. Dairy is a lot of the cause of allergies for babies, which makes no sense at all. But
Right.
it's the milk protein that is, for some reason, not corresponding correctly. And so eliminating dairy, caffeine, there's a number of things that the mom would have to go through to try to figure out what it is. And then for formula-fed babies, some people go through 6 formulas before they could figure out which one it is. And that in itself is really hard on the baby's digestive system to keep switching. So, we try to limit as many changes as possible to try to really figure out sooner than later what the issue is. And it's hard for the parents to go through, and the baby, of course. But again, that's the thing that we can identify immediately, because we know the signs of, reflux and the food allergies, and the parents are saying, is this normal? And you're like, no, it's not normal at all. This is not how the baby should be reacting. And so it's just another thing that with experience and with, having many cases of it, it's easier for us. Obviously, we're not doctors, but it's easy for us to identify. So,
yeah, I think it's really important that we don't give medical advice, because that's what newborn care specialists are not meant to do. But we can, like you said, the signs that things are happening, and we can say, okay, it's best to see your doctor, and let's get them evaluated.
Yes.
And and we catch things a lot sooner than a parent would catch it, or it could go on way longer versus having us be there. And
absolutely.
So and tongue tie, now that's a huge issue. And some doctors refuse to do anything about it. And it can be real detrimental to nursing. I mean, a baby who's not latching properly, mom's going to get mastitis, her boobs or breasts are going to hurt. And we don't know why this is so painful when it shouldn't be as painful as it is.
Right.
We can definitely, as newborn care specialists, can pinpoint a tongue tie or lip tie, but we don't diagnose it. Tell them to
we just can call attention to it, and and hope that it can be rectified sooner than later.
Right, exactly. So, all right, so we'll move on to your next one. Do you believe that pacifiers are useful? This is kind of a hot subject, because some people don't.
I know it is. It's kind of controversial. But again, with following different studies that have been done, babies have a natural reflex to suck. And so if every time they want to suck, they're being fed, that is going to overfeed them. And so I believe they do need it. I don't believe that it's worth forcing it on them. There are times that it is useful, and there are times that they don't need it. So I never force the baby to take it if they're not looking to suck. But if they have been fed and they are, have had the intake that they should have at that point, I feel like giving a pacifier is only going to help soothe them. It's also been identified as a SIDS deterrent. So, I don't think you can go wrong.
No, I actually like pacifiers. I'm one of the ones that I don't push it on anyone, and I don't push it on a baby, but it is really helpful to get them to stretch sleep cycles. So when it comes to pacifiers, definitely is worth stretching if you can get the baby to take it.
And when they do take it, even to fall asleep, as soon as they're done, they drop it. It falls out of their mouth, and then if they're sleeping soundly, they don't need it anymore. So I feel like it's, a win-win.
I call them a soother in my trainings that I do. I call them a soother and a disruptor. So what I do is I soothe them with it, but then as soon as they're soothed, I pop it out. It doesn't fall out and wake them up in the crib. Right. Alerts them. It's like we are taking it out and shushing them, and they're going back to sleep. So there's techniques you can do not to have them be so clingy to the passy, but it's so helpful in the end to have them. Take them.
I've actually never had a parent that did not allow it. So I'm one of the lucky ones.
You are lucky.
Because I've heard that if they don't allow it, it could make the night very long.
It does. I mean, it's totally doable. I mean, my son didn't take a passy and my daughter did. So, it's totally doable,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a little bit longer.
And certain babies are much more, in need of it than others.
Yeah. They're all different.
Yep.
All right. So what are new parents' expectations of how their baby is going to act? Like, do they have okay, let's put it this way. What is the real expectations versus this is what I think my baby's going to be like?
Right.
So how do you talk to people like that?
It's funny that, I think it depends on people's experience with infants, with newborns. And so if they've been around other newborns, they really have not much else to compare it to. So they're going to almost expect them to do whatever they have seen.
Right.
And I think only, maybe moms that have been in nursing or have been in babysitting or nannying or something like that are going to know that, wow, so many babies react differently to different circumstances and different environments. So I think it's most of the people don't know what to expect, because I found that most parents that I deal with don't have a lot of newborn experience.
Right.
And if they do, they just hope that it's going to be, sleeping and calm and quiet. But they always ask, well, what happens if they're screaming and crying all day? Like, what do we do? Yeah. And, I try to explain that there's a reason that they're doing that. That's not normal, or that's not how a baby wants to act. So, we're going to put into place certain things to help prevent that. And so when you start explaining things like that, I think it makes sense to them. But until you really are at the point where you're going through that experience, you don't really give much thought to, what is a baby going to do all day? You just think, oh, they're going to eat, they're going to poop, they're going to sleep, and then, and that's what they do. But if it's not done, like we said before, in a routine, correct way, it can cause havoc.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes too, we can be really too strict. There's a balance. Right. Over the years, I've learned in this industry, and having my own too, is that you have to be flexible too, but you have to watch for the kids' behavior, watch for the baby signs, because maybe they're too tired and you're out at a party at a friend's house. You know what? Go to the friend's room and just sit in the room with them and put them to sleep. There's things you can do while you're out that you don't have to be isolated.
Yes.
And be on a strict schedule. You can leave the house, but the babies still need to sleep and still need to eat.
Right.
So balance is like huge.
Yes. Yeah. I love when they say to me, well, we wanted to push, the sleep time back in the morning. So we kept them up till 11 o'clock at night, and they were screaming all night, and they didn't sleep any later in the morning. And they're like, why? I'm like, because that's not how it works. A baby's not like us. We're fully grown and able to, make changes like that, where every change for a baby has to be very systematically, incrementally, done so that they can adjust.
Yeah, no, totally. And they need to go to bed earlier, way earlier than parents usually expect.
Yes.
A lot of times, I mean, if we're coming in later after they've been born, a few weeks, parents put them to bed at 10 and 11 at night when they go to bed. And technically, babies are ready for bed by 6 to 7. They're ready for bed.
Right.
So
and the parents are watching TV, and they're, the babies are getting all that extra, stimulation. And, well, I shouldn't be telling you. You're the teacher.
Yeah, no. No, I mean, we're having a discussion. I mean, this is what we're teaching families to watch, because being able to discuss this is important. People don't understand.
Right. Yeah. And it's not like anyone has ever told them, maybe, they just don't know. Yeah. So that's one of the things that, I really like to do, is to actually just give this information out, because they don't know. And even in a lot of the baby books, what to expect, or I haven't actually read that myself in years, but there's so many books out there, but I don't know how many of them really tell the day-to-day little tidbits like this, so I think it's important for people to hear.
I read a book recently. It was probably the first one I've read in like, I don't know, 8 years. And I got through and I loved the first half, and the last half I was like, no, don't agree with. And it's just because we all have different ways of doing patterns.
Right.
And this person who wrote this book has a pattern and how she does it. But what I liked about her, this author, was she was realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we talk, that is the main thing when we talk to parents, is this is like really what's going to happen. It's realistic. Yeah. It's their goals are realistic. The expectations are. So it's not like, okay, your baby's going to be this dream baby and they're just going to sleep and they're going to just be this beautiful little thing. And it's like, no, I'm sorry. They're going to cry. Right. Part of life.
Right.
Some cry way more
and
than
some crying is normal. And that's how they're talking. So
yeah, they're telling us what they need, but sometimes they just need to release some energy. Crying does happen a little more sometimes. All right. So what is your goal in working with new parents?
My goal is always just to educate them as much as I can, to bring just a calmness to the experience where they might be anxious or nervous. I usually meet them at the house when they come home from the hospital, and sometimes the baby's been in the NICU, or it's just their first baby, or even their second or third baby, and they have other children to deal with. So just having a newborn care specialist there to ease that, from hospital to home transition is helpful in so many ways. You're an extra set of hands, you're an extra thought process, and you're really just comfort to them. And so I love that part of helping new families, and I find it just such an exciting time. But for them, it could be more of a, nervous time. Yeah. So I just feel like it's really nice to be a part of, and to, bring my experience so that I can help them to overcome anything that they might have to deal with. And of course, we all wish for those, dream babies. But typically there's something that, is going to happen to cause a little fuss. So the sooner we can, nip it and just, make everything as copacetic as possible, then, that's kind of the goal.
Exactly. So how many months in advance do people need to hire you out? Like how many times a year are you booked out? Like how many months?
I've been booked out up to 6 months ahead. And it kind of depends on, the year and cycles. And sometimes I'll take time off in between, long 24-hour jobs. And then I'm kind of out of that little loop. I have to get myself back in the loop, say, no, now I'm available. But usually it's about 4 to 6 months in advance. I've had some moms that I've had multiple children in their family call me as soon as they find out they're pregnant and say, can we book you? So that's always a nice call to get. I just found out one of my previous moms is having her 4th.
Oh,
which
nice.
is not as common these days. But so I'd say as soon as possible is a good call.
That's good. Well, it was so nice talking with you today. I really appreciate you coming on. And
thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm sure that we're going to be coming up with another collaborative, another thing we can talk about that you can teach parents, and we'll inform them when that happens. So
great. Thanks, Summer. I really appreciate it.
All right. Take care.